Okay, so we have made it to the 16th class, which means that it's our last class for this series. Our Tai Chi for the evidence-based, just our rules that we follow is it's once a week for 16 weeks or twice a week for 8 weeks. And so I do mine in 8 or in 16-week increments. There's Miss Linda. We started in January the 9th, and here it is May the 3rd. And it's just always hard to believe how quickly 16 weeks can go. I'm gonna remove my pen and spotlight. Why that makes a difference, I don't know, but for some reason when I do pen and there's more than 2 people online, it wants to bounce around. So with that being said, today is our final class. I will start a new series of classes August the 13th, and it will be set up the same way. Yeah, August the 13th. I was double checking. It'll be set up the same way. It'll be on Tuesdays. The morning class is 10 to 11, and the afternoon class is 1:30 to 2:30. Unless somebody suggests otherwise, I'm going to leave it like that. And I know that's the SOWEGA Council on Aging has already promoted it that way. If you know anybody that may be interested in taking Tai Chi, let me know. I mean, I'm happy for them to join us. I know it's not for everybody, but if you really dive into all the benefits of Tai Chi, then I guarantee you'll find one reason or another why Tai Chi is important for you. Years ago, it was 2006 when I originally was trained to teach Tai Chi, and it was a partnership with Public Health, the Area Agency on Aging with Public Health, and it was to address arthritis specifically. So if somebody has arthritis, this program is evidence-based to help with the pain and inflammation of arthritis. They went on to do more studies and made it evidence-based, proven to help people with falls prevention. So now we get funding through falls prevention programs. So that's why we teach it. But originally, when I was trained for arthritis Tai Chi, and it's the same exact program. My first day of training, I thought, oh my goodness, I cannot slow down like this. This is awful. I don't even want to do this. But I stuck with it because, you know, it's my job. I didn't really have a choice. And I stuck with it. And what I learned was it was everything I needed. And so that speaks to me living in this world that is always in a hurry, me living a life with to-do lists and just not taking the time to slow down. And that's what I needed. Really being my own enemy in the fact that I was causing myself so much stress, which stress and tension can lead to headaches. So it's just a cycle. And so you have to break that cycle. And that was one thing about Tai Chi. It was like, oh, even if for 1 hour, I can slow down. And so that was the reason why I fell in love with Tai Chi. I continue to learn about Tai Chi and find so many ways that even deep breathing with the Tai Chi can be so beneficial for our health. I even read last week that the FDA approved meditation and deep breathing for treatments for depression. And so that is amazing to me when a drug administration, a federal drug administration, acknowledges something that doesn't involve a drug that can treat a very common ailment, and that is depression. And so paired with Tai Chi, it gives us a sense of calm from our stress and anxieties. It helps us deal with, you know, just those everyday stressors, taking the time to slow down and breathe. And if you're here for falls prevention, then hey, we got you on that too. And that's all about body awareness and how we move our body and how we structure our body. We want to have a good posture, not just in Tai Chi, but outside of Tai Chi. We want to think in terms of weight transfer, even our pace, slow, smooth, continuous. As we weight transfer in a slow pace, we're encouraging our muscles to be stabilizers. We encourage our muscles to be strong. When we put weight on one leg, then having to hold our bodies on one leg, being able to do that shows that we're less likely to fall. And I don't know if I said that right, but what I really want to say is Tai Chi really does strengthen your body and set yourself up to not fall. It's not just something we say, it really does help people. I see it time and time again, people that commit to Tai Chi. And, you know, one lady, she has went from walking with a walker to a cane, and now she walks without. I mean, she doesn't even bring her cane into class. Another lady, she has a back brace, she has a leg brace, and she uses a cane most days, a 4-prong cane, and she is now able to get up out of a chair without pushing herself up. She has committed to Tai Chi and got her leg muscles strong enough to lift herself up out of the chair. So, and that's just something that lends itself to less chance of fall if you have the strength in your legs. So I encourage you that post class to continue to practice these principles, even in walking everyday life. If you don't remember the Tai Chi moves, I either have given you resources or can give you resources. If you don't have them, let me know with the handbook, posters. You know, you can go to my YouTube page and there are tutorials there. Every class, just about that I've ever done, I think I forgot to record a couple of times. But just about every class I've ever taught is on there. That's all a resource to help keep you in practice. And then, you know, we're never going to be perfect at Tai Chi. I mean, even this morning, I was doing our part 1 basic and advanced movements, and I went to start the second half of the advanced movements, and I just went back to the basic movements. So even somebody who's been teaching Tai Chi for, you know, 12 years-ish, I think it was 2012 whenever I started, and never stopped. I was originally trained in 2006, but then I stopped for a little while after that first year. So even a person who's done Tai Chi that long makes mistakes. And so Dr. Lamb, the writer of this program, he never intends us to do perfect Tai Chi. He knows that we are lifelong learners, and that's how we get better, is trying it. If we make a mistake, learn, laugh at ourselves, regroup, and pick up and start all over if you must. But just stay diligent to the body movements. So let me know how I can be a resource to you between now and August when we start again. For Miss Gail, you're with SOWEGA. Just let, I'm assuming Samantha Helton will be handling registration for SOWEGA. Miss Linda, if you want to keep doing it, you'll just let me know, and I'll set it up in your Claris to come up for class time. Miss Gail, I encourage you to ask them about the Claris. Miss Linda, she's had hers for what, about a year now, maybe a little over a year. And yeah, you enjoy it, and it's really easy to use, right?
Yes.
So I like being able to offer that, and I hope we can continue to offer that to the people who are interested and use it. So with that being said, let's go through our warm-ups, starting with our upright posture, our feet about shoulder width or hip width apart, holding no tension in our shoulders. I don't know why, but my hair is causing tension on my shoulders, so I'm going to pull it back. And we want to be breathing. My goal has been to breathe through my nose ever since I've been researching deep breathing and how breathing through our nose slows that airway down and does so many great things. But I know sometimes allergies don't allow us to breathe through our nose. We have to breathe through our mouth. Oh, relaxing my shoulders. I'm feeling some tension there. And here we go. From the neck, we bring our hands up, or for our neck, not from our neck, for our neck. Feel myself wanting to speed up. And I'm verbalizing this because I want you to know that body awareness happens with that conversation with yourself. You know, I check in with my neck or I check in with my shoulders and I go, oh, we holding tension there. And if so, let it go. Different situations will just driving probably does that the most for me. Is I bring tension into my shoulders and neck because driving is a very stressful experience for me. And but just being aware, having that conversation with yourself, scanning your body, knowing where you do tend to hold tension. Now we're working on those shoulders, rolling our shoulders forward and back. And I'm going to verbalize more things today just as a wrap up of the class and a reminder of the class. So that as you go into your own practice time this summer, then maybe some of these things will resonate and be good reminders of what we have learned from different classes. Y'all know y'all can always ask me questions. Even when today is over, I'm still available for you as a resource. You can email me, call me, whatever works best for you. I may not always be able to answer, but I will get back to you. For our spine, stretching that spine vertically. Side to side. Our lower body, starting with our hips. This is a very challenging movement to be able to hold our weight on one leg. And so even if you don't practice your Tai Chi series of movements with part one of basic and advanced movements, you can go through these warm-up movements, keeping principles in mind. Hold on a second, I gotta take my shoes off. I only recommend taking your shoes off if you are familiar with the environment and you have checked the floor to make sure that nothing is on the floor. And I have done that. I do it every single day when I come in here. But practicing these movements with principles in mind can get you the same benefits from Tai Chi that our movements do. It's the key words, keeping principles in mind. But you see, holding weight on one leg challenges your body to find that stabilizer, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not able to do this, hold on to a chair and just practice shifting weight to one leg. You can tap that foot out if you want to, but just shifting weight and completely trusting one leg to hold you, even if you have a chair there, you know, for just in case, because that feels good to have that. That I really encourage you to do that, and it'll make a difference in your balance. So it's not about learning all of the moves in order and knowing what, you know, waving hands in clouds is and doing all that with principle. It's the basis or basic weight transfer that's really going to help you. Now for our knee, see, balance and weight transfer. As we tap that foot forward, you know, we're putting a lot of trust in that one leg to hold our weight. This is also when we tend to hold our breath. So make sure you are breathing, but we do tend to hold our breath when we're doing something challenging. Feet were getting really hot in my shoes. That's why I had to take them off. My feet were saying, I want to breathe. If you were wondering why I needed to take my shoes off, I just was like, I can't keep these feet in these shoes this whole hour. I'm a barefooter, girls, y'all. All right, for our, oh, we got to go step out and shift weight. Right here, y'all, look at this. Shift side to side, step, shift forward, and come back with both feet flat on the floor. This move right here is gold as far as I'm concerned, because we have the challenge to keep our upright posture as we shift weight forward and as we shift weight back, side to side. So we shift to the side.
Are you keeping your back leg full on the floor?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Your heel doesn't come up on the back, does it?
Nope. If you pull that heel up, then it's going to kind of push your body forward, and you probably feel that if you do. Also,
So
it's just
feet not be flat.
Yeah, they should be.
Okay.
It's more stable to keep your feet flat on the floor. As soon as you pull it up, then you're going forward.
Yeah.
But good question, and it's a good challenge. And you can work some the spacing, work with the spacing. So how far you step out. Don't think it has to be a big step. You know, it's a fairly small step. If you were to step big and try to shift weight, it would be hard to keep that foot flat on the floor.
Yeah.
So always
that's what I've been doing.
always err on the side of smaller is better when
Okay.
in Tai Chi class. That is not very American of us. You know, we are like bigger and bigger is better and faster is better. And so Tai Chi goes against everything that we know in our normal. So we think surely if we go bigger, then that's going to help us more. But
And it can hurt
huh?
It can hurt you.
Yeah, in the name of
If you go
stability,
bigger, it can hurt you.
we want to stay over top of our hips. We want to keep that soft bend in our knee.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before with this exact movement, and that when you shift weight to the front leg, then you may think that that back leg straightens out. Well, if it does, it's not a real big problem, but try making that step a little smaller so that when you shift the weight, you can keep that soft bend in that back leg. It doesn't completely lock out. And it's real subtle. So it makes it probably kind of hard to see on camera over virtual land because it's just a soft bend. It's not a squat. But what it's not is locked knees where you have zero bend in them. One thing about that is when you have a soft bend in your knee, if somebody comes and bumps you, then you're going to bend into that knee. And you're going to be able to, in theory, and hopefully you're strong enough, you're going to be able to catch yourself and stand back up. But if your feet, and that's with a wider stance. But if your feet are right beside each other and you have your knees locked, standing straight up, and somebody bumps into you, then you're more likely to fall. So out inside Tai Chi, but also outside of Tai Chi, widen your stance, get that soft bend in your knee. And so widen your stance could be in that same plane, like beside each other, or you can do a staggered stance where one foot is a little further back than the other, and then that soft bend. This is probably the most stable stance that there is this staggered stance. Whichever foot is out front, that soft bend. And I just think about if you're ever standing in line somewhere and you're kind of forced to stay standing, and if there are people around, to stagger your stance, bend your knee, and just be aware of your environment. If you can avoid someone bumping into you, even better, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, so next for our ankles, we're going to heel toe. Rock those ankles because, that ankle joint, we want it to be mobile too. We don't want tension hanging out in our ankle because then that may increase our chance of falls. And this is something you can do from a seated position. Big toe, little toe. So that's rocking our foot side to side. And finally, little toe, big toe. I always go left to right. All right, give us a good shake, and I'm going to turn around, and we're going to go through our movements. We're going to do our basic 6 and our advanced 6. I'm going to tell you the names of each movement as we go through, and then we'll talk about specifics of the movements. Starting with our stable stance, good posture, and we're breathing. And commence. Open, close. Single whip. Waving hands in clouds. open, close, single whip. Waving hands in clouds. Advance 6. Brush knee. Play the loop. Carry punch. Lock and close. Push the tiger. Open, close. Brush knee. Play the loop. Parry punch. Lock and close. Push the tiger. Open, close. So that's our part 1 movements. Basic 6, advanced 6. Our basic 6 is what Dr. Lamb calls seated Tai Chi. So those are the movements that are that can be done seated. Advanced 6 can be 2, but that's not how he's designed his seated program. So let's go through our basic 6, standing and seated, and let you know maybe some of the differences or ways to do those movements. So whenever we do commencement, remember it's a step forward. We shift weight to our right foot. We step left, and when we step in Tai Chi, it's an empty step. We do not immediately give it weight, and then we do. And then we bring that right foot forward. Again, empty step, no no weight just yet. Then we even out the weight. So that's the footwork for commencement. Our hand work, we utilize our open joint, so we never lock our elbows. Our hands are facing the whole time as they come up and down, come in and up, take our hands out, and then bring our hands back in. And so that's something that you don't see when I'm turned around, but just as a reminder, in our final class, it goes up, down, in and up, out, and back in. That's the handwork of commencement. So we come up, down, we shift right. Step left, hands come in and up. Shift left as those hands go out. Right foot forward, hands come back, and I even my weight out on both legs for open and close. Single whip. I shift to my left, I step out right, and I'm at an angle. I don't immediately give weight to that foot I stepped out with, and then I usually say adjust weight. Now my hands want to do something. I push them away from me, turn my hands away, and separate, and my eyes follow my left hand. So from the front, it looks like shift, step, adjust weight, push, turn, separate, eyes follow, opposite hand of the foot that stepped out. And that's a forever rule for single whips. So in part 1, we step out, we step forward, single whip, and we follow the opposite hand with that stepped out, not neglecting the other hand. So we don't want to forget about this one just because we're not looking at it. I've done it before. It's been years ago where I would forget about it and just move the one I was looking at, out of sight, out of mind. But if you'll feel the difference between those two movements, when you open both, you open up that chest and you can feel even a stretch in your shoulders too. So we want to make sure that we're remembering all the pieces and parts of our movements so we get the most out of them. And so that right there is the whip part. So we want to put both hands out, or both hands, out. I said it right. And then hold on. Then we are ready for waving hands in clouds. That's my poster. I put these part 2 posters up for my advanced class. But this right here is waving hands in clouds, and that's where I do step, switch, turn, shift. That's waving hands in clouds. And so it's coming from that single whip. We bring that foot back and we start. So we step, then switch our hands, and then turn, shift, step, switch, 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 turn, and back to the middle for open and close. Now we're ready to go that way. With our single whip, we shift right, step left, adjust weight, push, turn, separate, eyes follow that right hand. Shift right, bring that left foot, left hand back. All right, waving hands in clouds. Step, switch, turn, shift, 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 step, switch, turn, and to the middle for open and close. And close it out. I know that waving hands in clouds is a complicated move. You feel like you got tentacles, right? Lots of hands and lots of feet. Right? Break it down. Just practice the stepping. Practice the stepping with our principles of weight transference, upright posture, slow, smooth, continuous. And even song, that internal open joint where you keep a soft bend in your knee, but just practice walking to the side where you step out, shift, step. Don't give it weight yet, but then give it weight so you can step. Don't give it weight yet, then give it weight. So there's that moment where there's no weight on the step. That's an empty step. And then shift the weight. Step, shift, follow step, shift, step, shift, follow step. So really enjoy the rhythm of that movement and walking. Slowing it down makes it more challenging and can help us with falls prevention by strengthening our legs. And hey, you get to a point when you come to a wall. Now go to the other direction, step, shift, follow step, shift, step, shift, follow step, shift, step, shift, follow step. We're just slowly walking sideways. And that is the footwork of waving hands in clouds. The step, shift, step, shift, step, shift. So those outside words are our footwork. The inside words are our handwork. Practice that footwork and then practice your handwork. You don't have to put them together. So when it comes to switch and turn, so from the front, it looks like this. I have one hand by my hip, and it doesn't matter if that's your left or your right, because we're going to switch and turn. So it doesn't matter where you start on one side. This hand is crossbody like a sash. And the hand that's on top, so this is my top hand, is the direction that we're going to go. So we turn, and we're turning our torso. We're not turning our head. We're not moving our arm. We're turning our torso. So we turn. Then we switch our hands. So now this hand is by our hip. And this hand is cross body like a sash, and we turn. Notice my legs, they're not going anywhere. My knees are staying forward. For the most part, my hips are staying forward. There may be a little bit of movement, but for the most part, it's just the top part of my body that's going side to side. Am I going as far as I can go? No. I can twist way over here. I'm not doing myself any good by twisting myself around like that. I can actually hurt my back, and I might even feel some stress on my knee from trying to have my feet planted and then pulling myself too far. So this is another one of those examples where bigger is not better. So stay within our frame is a general rule in Tai Chi. Listen to your body is a general rule. That's the number one rule. Always listen to your body. It doesn't matter what I told you to do. If your body's screaming, I don't want to do this, I don't like this, this hurts, then you stop and you either make a modification or you can ask me and I'll help you come up with a modification. Okay. So it's a torso movement, side to side. So hands, no hands, this is what I'm doing with my torso. Only because my head is attached to my body is my head moving. I'm not actually moving my head like this. My head is staying still while I move my body. So keep that in mind, that it is a torso movement, waving hands in clouds. Okay, so now I have my chair, and we're going to do our basic 6 movements seated. Just to remind you how to do these movements. I want you to see my feet. All right, so when we stand up, we have good posture. When we sit down, we have good posture. When we stand up, we keep our feet about hip width apart. We do the same thing when we're seated. So my feet are about hip width apart. They're planted on the floor. I'm not on the edge of my chair, but I'm up near the end of it. I'm not so far up that the chair's going to flip, but I'm not, laid back in Comfortville in my chair. And so this is that body structure that we want to have even when we're seated and doing our Tai Chi. So we want to have our bodies engaged. So when we do commencement, we have our hands to our side and we bring those hands up, down, in, up, out, and back in. Same exact hand movement that we do when we are standing. Now with our feet, we're not going to take a step forward sitting in a chair because we would come out of our chair. So what we can do to replicate some of that footwork is to push that foot into the floor and release and push the other foot into the floor. As if you were shifting weight standing. Does it have to be the same exact times that you shift weight? No. As a matter of fact, you can separate your footwork of pushing weight into the floor from your hand work. Especially if you have a hard time doing handwork and footwork all together. So practice pushing those feet into the floor, because what that does is engage muscle. There are going to be times whenever you can't do Tai Chi. Maybe you are stuck in a chair. You are on an airplane. You are stuck in this small space, but you want to engage muscle so you can get in a position to where you push feet into the floor, and that engages muscle. So do your handwork of commencement. And then do your footwork. Or hands up, down, push one foot into the floor, and then push the other foot into the floor, and kind of paddle them back and forth as you go through the movements. Boom, 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 boom. So it's not necessarily tied to a certain part of your hand movement, but you're going one foot, then the other. Push, release, push, release. You're pushing those feet into the floor to engage muscle, and you're doing it on a rhythm that makes sense for you. Next move, open and close. No footwork, open, close. Single whip. We're not going to step out, are we? Because we don't want to step out and fall from our chair. So we can push our hands out, turn, separate. Push, turn, separate. Whichever hand you would have looked at if you were standing. To me, that makes it more difficult because I know the rule in basic movement or in single whips that you follow the hand opposite the foot that you step out. So when you're not stepping a foot out, you may forget which one I should be looking at. Now, the first one that you should be looking at is your left, because in reality, when you do these movements standing, you step out with your right and you follow that left hand because it's opposite. But it's okay if you don't remember it. Just do one this time, whichever one you pick. And then when you do it again in a second, look at your other foot or other hand. If you look at the same hand 2 times in a row, it's okay. The Tai Chi police will not arrest you. So I'm just encouraging you to do your best. And if you make mistakes, to say, it's okay. It's okay if I make mistakes. So you're not going to step out of your chair, but you're going to still do that upper body movement. And you can feel the openness in your chest and the stretch in your back. So that's the seated single whip. And then, we kind of get in a good space with our waving hands and clouds seated because we don't have to do all that walking. We're going side to side. And this is a good way to practice your waving hands and clouds and learn to stay within your frame, because seated, if you come out of your frame, then you physically feel yourself pulling out of your chair. and you know you've gone too far. And sometimes it's not as obvious when you're standing, especially if you have really good flexibility in your spine, that you have gone outside of your frame. And so by your frame, I mean here. Like if you went to Michael's and got a perfect custom-made frame for your body, you would stay in that frame. You wouldn't go outside of it. So waving hands in clouds is staying within your frame. So the movements for seated, Tai Chi 1, just facing you, basic 6, hands up, down, in, up, out, back in, open, close. Single whip, push, turn, separate, eyes follow one hand. Waving hands in clouds, switch, turn, switch, turn, switch, turn, switch, turn. This is another part where it's hard for me to count 6 and turn because my feet give me clues. Open, close, single whip, push, turn, separate, follow the other hand this time. Now waving hands in clouds. 1, count to 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And to the center for open and close. Close it out. So that's what seated looks like. You know, it's a different option because we're going to have good days and bad days with it. It's just not something that we have done regularly in this class. But I wanted to review that nonetheless so that you'll have those skills to practice when maybe standing just doesn't feel so good today. So yes, the transferring the weight is important. You get a little bit of muscle engagement when you're seated. It's nothing like whenever you're standing. So I suggest having a chair, having a wall, having a table, something that is very stable, that's not going to move out from you, to rely on for balance and just in case, and really practice weight transfer. You don't have to step and go anywhere, but shifting to one leg and tapping out the other, or just simply shifting and lifting that foot. So I'm going to move the chair so y'all can see my legs, but we're going to pretend that that chair is still there. It's tricky with chairs to make sure that you have one that's the right height. That chair is a little bit short for me, but it's what I have available. And sometimes we just don't have the luxury of having the perfect chair. But most importantly, it's stable. Sometimes I will hold on to this wall. This wall is not going anywhere. This table is not going anywhere. Now, my table at my house would move, but this table here, I don't know if it's made of steel or what, but it's not going anywhere. But holding on to my imaginary chair, shifting weight, you don't even have to lift and tap out like we do in our warm-up, but shifting weight, knowing all the weight is shifted, I haven't even lifted that foot up off the floor. And I don't have to shift weight. Knowing all my weight has been shifted, I'm simply practicing weight shift, which makes my legs stronger. So you can shift and lift that foot holding your chair. Shift, lift that foot. Challenge yourself to hold weight on one leg while you lift that foot. Just challenge yourself. Challenge yourself to not rely on that chair to hold you. Have it there, but challenge yourself to not use it. Keep practicing the weight shift and the hold weight on one leg, and that's how you get stronger and able to do all of the standing ones where we do all that shift and tapping out, shift and tapping out, or shift and heel. You know, these are very strenuous movements and challenging for our balance. So if those are moves that you find yourself being extremely wobbly on, go back to the chair and practice the weight shift. Practice the weight shift side to side, but then stagger your stance, just like we do with our knee warm up, and shift weight forward and back. Small little weight shift, small little weight shift. But you can feel those muscles engage as you shift weight forward and back. And that's in the comfort of holding on to my chair. So I encourage you to do what you can do, but do it in your comfort zone and push yourself to grow. Push yourself to do something just a little outside of your comfort zone, because that is how you will grow. Any questions about those things? It's a big time review, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's no questions for me.
Okay. Are you good, Miss Gail? All right. So I'm going to turn around. I'm going to go through our basic 6 and our advanced 6 again. Here we go. And commence. Open, close. Single whip. Waving hands in clouds. Whip. Waving hands in clouds. Open, close. I did not complete that. Now open and close. Sorry about that, y'all. Being in a hurry. Advanced 6, starting with brush knee. Play the lute. Hairy punch. Lock and close. Push the tiger. Open, close. Brush knee. Play the lute. Open, close. All right, let's do it one more time. Run the top. And commence. Open, close. Single whip. Waving hands in clouds. Remember, count to 6. Open, close. Single whip. Waving hands in clouds. Open, close. Brush knee. Play the loop. Harry punch. Block and close. Push the tiger. Open, close. Brush knee. Play the loop. Harry punch. Block and close. Push the tiger. Open, close. Close it out. How was that?
That was good.
Good deal. I know I've really pushed you this time into our advanced 6, and I know that's a challenge, but we're going to keep working on it. We're going to keep breaking down those movements. In our next class, we'll dive into it. So don't get discouraged, but it's good to get pushed a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know
we get set in our ways and don't want to move.
That's right. We want the easy stuff. But
right.
I try to give you options, seated, standing, you know, even laying down and thinking about it. Oh, let's add tension to our lives and then let it go. Gather and release. We do not want to live with tension. We want to let that go. Breathe. We have our strength, our friendship, our humility, and in mutual respect, we say namaste.
Namaste.
Oh, you've done another class, Miss Linda. You have done it. You have become a completer. You got your t-shirt already. But that's awesome. I'm proud of you for sticking with it.
So when I come back, I'll be going to a higher class.
That's completely up to you. Let me open this door. That's completely up to you. You can stay in this class. It's the same movements, and we'll keep going through them and going over them and just thinking about it and talking about them in different ways. The next class is there's a part 2 portion, and that's what this is on the wall, that we don't necessarily have to get to. I always let my class kind of lead me in what their interests are. But you can think about it. If you want to look at on YouTube some of the classes that have SOWEGA, the date, and then exploring out to the side, that's that advanced class. And I will never make you go to it. You can stay right here and be comfortable right here. And I promise you, you will still grow and explore in this class.
Let's go with this class.
Okay, that sounds good to me. I think that's a good decision.
I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah, that's okay. Like I'm telling you that explore class, one of the people in it, he's in Adairsville. He's going to become an instructor. So I think that's really cool, but that's pretty darn advanced, isn't it?
Well, I like you as an instructor now.
Well, you'll
I
have me,
want you to
darling. I get kind of
I'm
selfish.
you.
I get
Huh?
selfish with my people. I don't like sharing them, so I like keep.
Well, that's the way I feel. I don't want different instructors
You
because
won't.
I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. You will be with me, Miss Linda. No worries about that. Okay.
That's August the 13th.
August the 13th.
Okay.
All right, darling. Well, I'll be in touch, but
Sometime.
you let me know if you need anything before then. Okay.
All right.
All
But
right.
it will be the same time,
Same.
the afternoon. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Same time.
Okay.
All
I
right.
need you. I'll call you.
Please do. Love you.
Love you too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.